Okay, what I want to talk to you today about is this thing, how to hit your driver. And I want to give you 3 basic things that I want you to try and work upon that's going to improve your driver. It's not always about distance. Sometimes there's other things that you need to work on as well. So come on, let's go do it. So with the driver, what we're looking for is to really not just build up speed, and everybody on the internet is all talking about speed and hitting it further. Yes, I am not going to disagree that distance does give you the advantage over other players and actually can help you shoot lower scores. Not going to disagree with that at all, and you should do flexibility training, strength training, and try and build that speed up. I mean, you can build speed up by just swinging faster, but out of the 3 things that we want to talk about today, I really want to make sure that you're going to get consistency with your game, because the driver is an important club to hit. It's really an accuracy club just as much as your irons as well, because some of the courses that we play on, especially over here, they can be quite woodlands, and you're in the trees and so on, you're having to chip out again sideways. It's not always distance that wins. So I'm going to come up with 3 different things that I would like you to work on, okay? And they're basic, easy things, but they're things that are going to give you easy, cheap wins. So let's go through it. Let's see if we can get this done and see if we can get you to improve your driver. So ball position is probably one of the most important things there, and you've got to try and make sure that you get it positioned in a point where we're going to be hitting the ball slightly different with the driver than we do with an iron. With an iron, you're actually making a slight downward motion because of where it's positioned in our circle or in our arc. Okay, we've placed the ball in a different place, where I like to see it just under my sort of logo on my shirt, or just under my left, I'd like to say pecs, but do I have pecs? Maybe not at my age. But generally I like to see it just slightly forward of centre. With the drive, and this will encourage me then when I'm swinging into the ball, I'm moving up into my left side and pushing back, I'm going to be slightly in line with the ball or slightly ahead of the ball. And this is going to give me that slight downward motion with my irons. But with the driver, it's a different beast altogether. We're going to go wider with the stance, which is important to give you a good stability or good base or foundation. And I'm going to position the ball somewhere. You have a window of opportunity here where you can play it either off your left heel or just inside the instep here. So there's a couple of inches either way. But this is going to actually encourage you, because it's going to, with a wider stance and so on, it's going to put you more behind the ball. This is going to give me the opportunity then to swing down. This is where the bottom of my arc is here, and then start to come up. I'm going to have a good sort of, well, some of the great players will have quite a high angle of approach going upwards, 4 or 5 degrees, but generally you can be somewhere between 0 or even 1 degree down to those 4 degrees. So it's really important you understand that and you play to that position here. This is going to give you the optimum spin rate on the ball, which is important, because we don't want to be hitting high spinny ones and floaty ones. We want the ball to be getting up on a good launch angle and then coming down on a good sort of rainbow trajectory, as we used to call it. Okay, we don't want it to go low and up, and we don't want it to go up and down. It's got to be just on that perfect trajectory. So putting the ball is an easy, cheap win to get, actually, because it's one area that golfers don't practice enough. And one of the things that you could do is, by what I've done here, which I showed you face on there, is using these alignment sticks to help you when you're playing, or use golf clubs, put them in positions. So there's one just coming off your instep here, because sometimes your eyes deceive you, okay, and what your eyes see, your brain perceives, okay. So you've got to make sure that you're practicing this a lot, because this is a real cheap, easy win to make if you can do that. The second thing that I want you to work upon is making sure you've got good posture, okay? Good posture is very important, and not just with drivers, but with irons as well. But having good posture is going to give you a nice relaxed stance, because one of the things you want to make sure you have when you're doing this is that you have no tension within your body. So if you have a position where you're arching your back too much, trying to be an Adam Scott, you're locking your hips in here, and with your hips being locked and your knees being locked, you've got no fluidity of movement. And also having too much knee bend as well is going to cause your hips and your legs to lock up, and you're not going to have the movement either. So trying to make sure you get this correct is important. And really all you're doing is you're just bowing to the ball, basically. So all I'm doing here is pushing my hips back, all right? I'm not really over flexing my knees, I'm just pushing my hips back. So I'm going to start nice and straight here, and I'm just pushing my hips back. I can feel the weight in the balls of my feet, which is important. We have a multi-million device built into our bodies, whereas if I move into my toes which we see a lot of amateurs do. Move up into the toes, you're grabbing with your toes, and if I'm moving back here on my heels, I'm sort of lifting up too much. I can find where it is. It's fairly easy to move and find. I've not got over knee flex here either. I'm nice and relaxed, okay? I'm sort of in a nice stable position. I'm also not tensing my back too much either. You can see if I put this in the middle of my back here, there's a gap here between the shaft and my head, because my upper spine starts to curve here, and that varies from player to player, but that's really important as well. What we don't want to do is trying to go our heads touch and trying to have that perfectly flat straight back. Again, just gives you tension. My shoulder blades lock in. I want to be in that nice relaxed posture. All right, so just sort of in a nice comfortable position. So standing straight, I just push my backside back out there, and I can keep my weight evenly distributed in my balls of my feet. My knees are almost in line with the balls of my feet as well. That's a good tip as well for you. So if I drew a line down, my knees are in line with the balls, or in line with my ankles is a good window of opportunity. That means I'm in good posture, good balance. All right. If I have my knees outside my toes, then I'm going to lose that balance and that posture. All right. So it's very, very important that you practice those and keep an eye on those things, because what we're really looking for is a nice, relaxed sort of movement where we can create a lot of, or have hardly any tension in the swing at all. That's what's going to create speed. So get those two things. That's number one. Get the ball position correct and get your posture correct. They're cheap, easy wins. If you can pay attention to those, you're going to see improvement straight away. The second tip, and this is a really important one as well to work on, is your lever system. All right, and we don't see golfers concentrate enough on this. They tend to focus a lot on the body, making sure the golf swing is controlled by the body. Yes, the body has an important role in the swing, but it's not the be all and end all. We've got to make sure that we use the arms as well, because that is a major key or a major speed producer. Okay, how I use my hands and arms and wrists is what's going to create a lot of club head speed easily. All right, this is about efficiency of swing, not about hitting positions and so on and so forth. It's about having the efficiency of swing, so you're not putting a lot of strain on your body. All right, so it's very, very important that we develop a good wrist action and good leverage action. Okay, so when I swing the golf club back, my wrists will be set or hinged on the way back. They'll unhinge, and then to the ball, and I'll let the club head just run into the ball, and then from there I'll have a rehinge on the way through. All right, so hinge back, unhinge, and hinge up. All right, that's the speed producer. That's where you're going to create a lot of and generate a lot of speed. All right, what we see a lot of golfers do is they're trying to turn the body back and turn through, and they're trying to do it with their body. All right, and yes, you can control it that way. Yes, tour players do practice that, but a lot of that is because they've got other things going on as well. So it's really important that you make sure you practice leverage. All right. And a great way that I was shown how to do it by Mike Malaska was to just stand there, put the club head on your shoulder like so, and rest it like this. And all you're going to do is literally imagine there's a ball dead ahead of you here. I'm going to put it on my shoulders here and fling the club at the ball. Okay, I'm going to try and hit the ball that's dead ahead of me. So I'm hitting it and flinging it and hitting it here. All right. And what's going to happen is when I do this, is the club head is going to release. Okay, I'm going to see the butt end of the club here is going to turn through. All right, it's going to release. All right, and that's a really key thing. All right, and then it's going to come round and over my shoulder. We've got to allow the club head to release. If you don't allow that to release, you're just a dragger. Okay, and you're just dragging the club through. You're not creating enough speed and power. All right, the club has to release, and that's really important. All right, it's the same as if I had a baseball bat. If I was going to hit a baseball, the bat would come up to here, I would release the bat to hit it, and then it would fling through, okay? I wouldn't try and drag the bat through. I'd hit here, I'd step up into it and pow, like that, okay? The bat would release. And it's very important you understand that. We see so many golfers that try to drag it through and try to control it that way. They don't release it. So it's very important that you practice a release. Very easy way of doing it is to set up to a ball, get your grip correct, is you literally just go from an L position on the way back, so my wrists are hinged here and the shaft is creating an L shape. I'm going to hit the club, I'm going to feel like I'm throwing the club head at the ball, and then I'm going to release the club head up through, so I'm going to go from L shape here, down to the ball, let the club head run into the ball, and then up into an L shape here. all right? I can do this while keeping my feet down. If anything, I'd probably suggest you do it with your right foot back, okay? So I'm just going to stand up to the ball, get the ball in the right position, good posture. I'm just going to run L to L, all right? Just going to let the club head release. So back and through, okay? I'm allowing the club head to release naturally towards the target. That's going to give me quite a lot of club head speed without even realizing it. I think on that one, yeah, 86 miles an hour. Yeah, 86 miles an hour. So that's not bad. For somebody who's only hitting it one leg, you know, no body, no hands and arms, you know, just all hands and arms. I'll try it again. See if I can get that right again. So right foot back, just going to swing L to L, all right? And that's very important. So allow the leverage to happen. So back and through, okay? Gone pretty straight, sorry, 90 miles an hour. So that's not bad. See, a lot of amateurs out there would kill to have, you know, 90 miles an hour of club head speed. And I'm basically standing there just with my hands and arms, not even swinging my, using my body. So very, very important that you practice this and get this correct, all right? So just practice that L to L. Learn to release the club head, all right? Do that drill, put it on your shoulder and throw it out. And that's what I want you to try and do when you're swinging a golf club now, is I want you to stand there. I want you to feel as though you're putting it on your shoulder and over the other shoulder and releasing the wrists. So you're just going to go back and through. And that's what creates club head speed. That one there, 98 miles an hour. All right, 221 yards, but I wasn't using my body at all. But if you listen to Instagrams and YouTubes and so on, apparently it's the body that gives you all the speed. No, it just adds on the extra percentage. That's what you need. So very, very important you practice that, okay? Second thing I want you to be practicing, snow's coming down now. Second thing I want you to be practicing is controlling the curve, and you do that with your hands, all right? So I want you, once you can do that L to L consistently, I then want you to start using your hands to try and control the curve of the ball. You've got to learn to control this thing. If you don't control this thing, you're going to hit it everywhere, all right? And this is one thing that amateurs don't practice enough, is practicing using the hands to try and roll the hand through. So if I want the club face to turn to the left-hand side, I'll turn my hand over. When it go to the right, I'll turn it the other way. And it's very important that you practice that on a golf course. So when you're standing here, try a draw. I'm going to come in from the inside line and roll the hand through. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and through. I'm going to hit a little curve. Yeah, little baby curve. All right. So very, very important that you practice that, because being able to do those on a whim means you've got club head control. You don't have to do it hard. You can stand there nice and easy, actually, just swinging back and just practice curving the ball. Okay, I'm going to go for a lower one. If I want to hit the ball lower, I just keep the wrist set a bit longer through impact. Okay, so I'm just going to stand here, just going to swing back, hit it lower. Okay, didn't allow that hand to release. Yep, gone lower. Perfect. So very, very important that you practice this as much as you possibly can, all right, when you're playing and practicing, because this way then you're going to make better golf shots. So let's try and do it now with club face open. So I'm going to roll the hand, keep the hand facing to the right. Same sort of swing, so back and cut across it. Yeah, there she goes, little baby fade. Okay. So having the ability to do that is so important, be able to hit shapes, because that means you've got full control of the driver. It's not always about speed. Speed will be the next one. But really, ideally, try to learn to control the club face first before you start going for speed. That's really the key to the game. And that's key to learning, becoming a better driver of the ball. All right? Get that lever action working first, though. So back and through. You'll hit the ball a lot better, I can promise you, with the driver. Try to look for control first, then we can build in speed. Okay, the third thing that we want you to be working on, which is speed. Okay, how do you generate speed? There's two ways in which you can do this, but first of all, let's look at the mechanics of it first of all. The first one, looking at speed, is we want to try and get this right hip back. Okay, you're allowed to do that. We were taught for so many years you've got to add in resistance. This is going to give you tight turns and coils and so on. But now we've got to allow the right hip to go back. This is going to allow me to make a fuller shoulder turn, okay, and get the club further around my body. That's going to naturally generate speed, all right? And that's what we're after, really. We want to try and get the club head, the right hip to go back, get the club to go further back. The second part of the actual swing that we want to try and get right is get the arms to go up. All right, try and get the arms to go up. There's a thing called gravity. All right, gravity is an important thing. If you let, everything will go downwards. All right, so if I can get the arms to go up, I'm going to create more downwards movement and downward force by letting gravity do its work for me. Also, it's no coincidence a lot of the biggest hitters on the tour have very high hands at the top of their swing. All right, the reason being for this is that they can pull it down. Okay, so if I go up, I can pull down. There is a window of opportunity here though. I don't really want it to be in line with your right ear, if possible. A bit lower here, ideally. I'd rather have it in line with your shoulders, but anywhere between your shoulders and your right ear is a good window to have. That way then you're going to create more club head speed naturally without having to force it. What we don't want to see is when you keep the arms tight across your chest and you're very low around here, you've not got any downward force to create. What you're trying to create from here then is a lot of rotational movement, which can actually hurt your back. All right, so you want to try and get the club head going. So you want to get the right hip going back, arms going up. So from here then I can then move up into my left side. The third thing that you want to try and get right when you're doing this is getting this hip to push back and away. Okay, so when I swing up, I'm going to get a lot of turn here. I'm going to move up into my left side, put a lot of force into the ground or pressure into the ground. As soon as that hits the ground there, I'm then using that leg here, my left leg, to then push the hip up and away from the target. Okay, it's pushing here and pushing here. This is going to create that whip through on the forward swing. So here, whip through. That's how I'm going to create that. Up and push back. So I'm pushing that left hip back. That's very, very important that you do that. All right, so practice that as much as you possibly can. Try and get up into the left side and swing back. It's the same again as a baseball player, okay? I'm British, we don't play baseball, but I get the general sense of how a baseball is swung, all right? So when they're standing there, they'll load up into the right, they'll put pressures into the right side, but as the bat's going back, they put in pressure up into the left leg, so they're planting it, they're getting a base of support with this leg here, to then when they pull in, they're hitting back, and this left leg starts to push away from the ball as it's coming in here. As the ball's coming this way, I'm pushing away from that swing here, and this is going to create that flick away action. Okay, so I'm going to go up into my left side, push away, and that's going to give me that whip through the ball. It's like that's the brake that stops you from going with it. What we used to see a lot of golfers do, especially in the old days, was they used to go with it. Okay, we used to go along with the ball to try and get through it and so on. Well, ideally what we want to be doing is we want our bodies to be going that way while the club and the bat is going that way. Okay, so you're getting those forces, and that's going to create this whip through here as you hit through it. It's very important you understand that, because we see a lot of golfers, they tend to, as I said, they tend to go back and then they go through with it. Okay, and there's no forces there. Ideally what we're trying to do is get up into the left side and push away. That's creating the torque that you need to try and create the power. And that's very important that you practice that. Now, one way that you can practice this is try and do one at a time. All right, that's probably the best way to do it actually. So for this one here, I'm going to try and get my right hip to go further back. It's going to give me more shoulder turn. All right, and I'm just going to go from here. I'm just going to swing the club back. I've got the club in the right position, back and through. Okay, that's allowed me to have a bigger shoulder turn and get the club further around my body. That generates natural club head speed. All right, I can then start, and I didn't do it fast. That's the key thing here to remember. You don't have to go at it. When you're practicing things, you don't have to go at 1,000 miles an hour. Okay, you can keep it nice and simple. Second one was to try and get big shoulder turn, higher hands. I can pull down into the ball then naturally. Okay, so big shoulder turn, higher hands. Again, I'm going to do it slowly. All right, big shoulder turn, higher hands. Okay, doing it nice and slow, trying to get a feel for it, and that's what you want to try and do. You don't have to go all guns blazing from the start. Sorry, I've got a new net and it keeps swallowing up the ball. I had to add in a bit because I've got a hole in the other one because I'm just too powerful, obviously. So very, very important. So I've just tried that one there. So I've got a little bit higher, right hip back, allowed me to make a fuller shoulder turn and swing through. Second one, I'm then going to try and get the feeling of then pushing that left hip back. All right, this is one that I actually try and still work on now because I don't get it as right as I could do. I'm not as strong in my left leg as I probably would like. Okay, but anyway, that's what I'm going to be working on myself. That's my 2023 movement. So I'm going to swing back, swing through. That's going to give me that whip. I feel like my hip really went backwards then. The key thing with the hip work is to feel this movement. So the right hip goes back, so it goes back behind, away from the ball, so it goes further away from the ball than when it started. What we see a lot of amateurs do is keep the right hip still and the left hip gets nearer the ball. What you want to try and feel is the right hip goes further back, okay? And then move up into my left side without the right hip coming forward. So it goes back, and I want my left hip to come back to meet the right hip. I never want the right hip to go out forward, all right? So right hip back, up into the ball, left hip back. And that's really key that you work on that to try and get more distance. That's the real key. You know, when people talk about the body doing the key and the body doing the work, that's where it's coming from. I can promise you, that's where the forces are coming from. So you're standing back, you're making a swing. Got myself in a great setup position here. Ball's forward in my stance. I'm going to get my line of compression. I'm going to swing back. So I'm going to make a bigger swing and through. And that's how I create my speed and power. I'm not the longest in the world, I can promise you that. Old age is hitting you, it does hit you when you get to my age, but it's very important that you get that correct. So work on those things. Get your right hip to go further back, get the hands to go higher, and then I want you to then push the left hip to meet the right hip on the way back. That's the key to getting more speed in your golf swing. Try those things out, easy wins, okay? Give it a go. I'm hoping that's a lot clearer for you. There are 3 things that I really want you to try and work on in order to improve your driver, okay? The better you can hit this thing and get it on the fairways more and in play, the better your golf game is going to be, I can guarantee you that. Yes, distance is important and it's something that you work upon, but you've got to remember as well, you've got to be able to control this thing. So the 3 things that I wanted you to look at was basics in your setup. Get your posture right, get your ball position correct. They're easy wins. You don't have to be an athlete to do those ones. The second one is work on leverage. Make sure you're using your hands, arms and wrists correctly. Practice just using those, but also in that as well, get used to controlling the club face as you do so. Hit different shots. When you're in the driving range, hit draws, hit fades, hit low ones, hit high ones. Practice using your hands correctly to control the face. That way then you're going to be a lot better in controlling the ball. You have a better understanding of it. Remember as well, you don't always have to go full pelt when you're doing these. Build it up, but get used to it slowly. Let your body have time to digest what you're doing. Remember, you're going to be doing something that's different to what you're already used to doing. The third thing then was down to speed. Get that right hip back, it allows more shoulder turn. You don't have to hold this right hip anymore like we used to do. Restrict shoulder turn, keeps it nice and short and more controlled, but get that right hip back, get a longer swing. I can promise you if you do that, you're going to get more distance. Also, get the hands higher. Remember, they're going to then pull down. That's what pulls down and gives it extra speed, okay? You want the hands to be pulling, and then on the follow through, pushing away from the target. Use your left leg to push the hip back. Okay, so you move up into your left leg like a baseball player does when they're hitting a baseball bat, and then push away. That's going to give you that extra zip through the ball. It's like whipping a towel, okay? You need to put the brakes on at some point, and that's what happens here. You're going to flip it, okay? So the hand's going to stop, and that's what's happening here. I'm going the other way from the club head. That's what's going to create speed. They're not your usual tips that you get from people. Normally it's all about speed, speed, speed. I hope it's a bit different to what you're used to watching, and please, if you're enjoying these videos, please continue to subscribe. I thank you for your support. Share it with friends. Get it around there as much as possible if you find this would be useful for somebody else. Thank you for your time, and hopefully I'll see you at the next one.